He wasn't the chosen one. He wasn't gifted in his old life, no matter how hard he tried. But when he reincarnated, the old man gave him a new deal. Grow slower than everyone else, but with every ounce of effort, grow stronger than them all. Now as Mars, he works, trains, and fights harder than anyone alive, because this time, talent and effort walk hand in hand. Can hard work alone rewrite destiny in a world of demons and heroes? Let's find out. This story begins with a protagonist named Fujisaki Yuto, thinking that everything will work out if he tries. This was his motto in life. He was 20 years old and was trying to enter the academy for the second year. Looking through the lists of names, he once again realized that his name was not on this list. The protagonist thought sadly, and this time, he failed. Well, it seems he just did not try hard enough. He went into the store thinking that next year, he will definitely pass all the exams. At that moment, his attention was drawn to a robber who, threatening a cute girl, demanded money from her. MC thought in amazement, a robber? The criminal was rushing the seller so that she would collect his money faster. He extended his hand with a knife and exclaimed, "Why is she frozen?" The protagonist grabbed the first thing he saw, a broom, and hit the robber with all his might from behind. The seller did not lose her composure, and grabbing the ladle, she hit the criminal in the face with all her might. When he fell to the floor, the girl smiled at the protagonist. She thanked him. This is the last thing he remembers. Everything went blurry in his eyes, and he lost consciousness. When MC opened his eyes, he saw the sky. He thought, where is he? Did he go to heaven? Did he really die? At that moment, a voice was heard behind him. The protagonist turned around in surprise. In front of him stood a stately old man who had the status of a demigod. He told the protagonist he came. First, let him apologize to him. He's very sorry. Yuto adjusted his glasses and said in bewilderment, he does not quite understand what is happening. What is he apologizing to him for? The old man answered him that he put an effect on the three of them, and by doing so he was the same as killing him. The protagonist asked, who is he? The old man answered him that he is what is called a demigod, and they are in the border world. To put it simply, one step away from heaven. He continued, he wanted to send divine punishment to someone in the world he rules, but they somehow ended up in his world. He really is very sorry. He turned around to leave. The protagonist asked him to stop. MC asked him what will happen to him now. The demigod said that he will direct his power to his reincarnation. However, he will not be able to return him to his previous world. Let him forgive him, but he can only be reborn in the world he rules. Even his abilities have limitations, so there is little he can do for him. The protagonist asked him what their world is like. The old man said that it is a fantasy world, a world of swords and magic. He added that there are many magical creatures and dangerous places there now. He had already mentioned earlier that he couldn't do much to help him, but this could be compensated for by a special skill that he would give him. Yuto asked the old man if he could ask him a few questions. The demigod was not against it. Yuto asked him how old he would be when he was reborn. The old man answered that he would be 0. In other words, he would be born as an ordinary person. The protagonist also wanted to know if he could use magic. The answer satisfied him. He could use magic, although not all types. The protagonist was surprised by this. Not all types? And how many are there, anyway? The demigod answered that there are 4 basic elements: fire, water, wind, earth, and also sacred magic. He suggested that the protagonist try to open his status. This way, he would be able to learn more about his abilities. When MC did this, a system window appeared in front of him, where there was information about his name, 0 indicators, and only luck showed 30 points. His innate skill was S-class lightning magic. His special skills were B-class swordsmanship, A-class wind magic, and C-class sacred magic. The old man was surprised. S rank? Impressive. And he hadn't even bestowed anything on him yet. He extended his hand to the protagonist and said that they were running out of time, so he would ask him one last question. What ability did he want to obtain? The protagonist, after some thought, exclaimed that he wanted a talent that would reward him for his efforts. The demigod looked at him in surprise and asked if he wasn't too simple. The protagonist noted that it might be simple, but with his luck, even if his level increased, there was a chance that his stats wouldn't increase at all. The demigod thoughtfully said that he understood everything. In that case, he would bestow an innate talent on him. He explained that this ability would increase the experience points needed to level up by 3 times compared to ordinary people. Each ability would increase by 1 point when leveling up. For an ordinary person, even if the level increases, the ability does not increase by 1 point. Except for luck, the overall increase in qualities is usually between 2 and 5 points. The protagonist exclaimed in surprise. He wants to say that he can level up faster than others? Then he asks him to give him this ability. The old man added, as an addition, he will also grant him clairvoyance. It will allow him to evaluate other people and objects. It will also allow him to feel the flow of magic, and even have night vision. It is quite convenient. The protagonist noted, speaking of him, what will happen to him now? A demigod? The old man said. He has decided to reincarnate him, so his existence is coming to an end. His doppelgangers will take care of the other 2. Since they are just doppelgangers, their strength is about half that of his. He put his hands on the MC's shoulders and added, therefore, he can only give each of them a small power, which he himself cannot really explain. He trusts this to his doppelgangers. The old man was silent for a moment and then spoke. It seemed that his time was running out. At that moment, a bright flash flared up and the demigod disappeared. The protagonist was reborn as a baby. Now his name was Mars Bryant. The system showed that his levels had increased by 1 point. His innate skills were innate talent, clairvoyance, lightning magic. Special skills were swordsmanship, wind magic, and sacred magic. Time passed. He grew like normal children. Over the past year, from 0, he raised his mana points to the maximum. He really liked clairvoyance. While in the kitchen with his family, whatever he looked at, the system immediately gave the exact name and status, be it flowers or a tree, a bowl, a candle. Zeke, the protagonist's father, who had HP 126, MP 132, Strength 35, Speed 139, Magic 74, Agility 122, Stamina 138, Luck 10, and his special skills were Swordsmanship E, Earth Magic C, remarked that Mars was very easygoing. Maria Bryant, who was the protagonist's mother, had HP 102, MP 120, Strength 18, Speed 139, Magic 74, Agility 122, Stamina 138, Luck 10. Her special skills were Swordsmanship E and Earth Magic C. She responded to her husband, "Yes, it can be difficult at times." Being with Ike seemed to have a positive effect on their youngest son. Ike, the protagonist's older brother, remarked that Mars is amazing, right? He himself had HP 5, MP 3, Strength 2, Speed 2, Magic 1, Agility 11, Endurance 12, Luck 10. His special skills were Swordsmanship C, Spearmanship B, and Fire Magic C. While Mars was running around the kitchen, he felt tired and climbed up on a chair. His mother patted his cheek. His HP showed 2, MP 872 plus 863, Strength 1, Speed 1, Magic 5, Agility 11, Endurance 11, Luck 10. His innate skills were in Talent Maximum level, Clairvoyance level 3. After that, he went to bed and thought, having used up all his mana, he was tired, so he needed to sleep. He activated the system with his indicators, and happily noted that his magic power had increased again. He thought that soon he would be able to try using magic. The protagonist decided to try it now and see what would happen. He activated thunder magic, but as he expected, it was impossible for him yet. Nothing happened after activation. The protagonist decided that he needed to learn how to use magic as soon as possible. After some time, during dinner, he turned to his parents and asked them how to use magic. His parents looked at him in surprise. Then his mother laughed and asked him why he was asking about it. The protagonist also laughed and said that if he had talent, he wanted to try and learn it as soon as possible. Maria noticed, that's how, but in her opinion, it was still too early for him. She added that when she teaches Ike, she will teach him too. The protagonist exclaimed in admiration, "Even healing magic?" His mother was touched. What was he saying? Why does he need healing magic? The protagonist answered them that he dreams of healing his parents' wounds. Zeke and Maria were very surprised by this answer and touched. Zeke lay down on the table with his chest. His wife told him to hold on. She whispered to him to check if their youngest son could use sacred magic. Maria added that they had better determine his magical abilities in advance. If he could use this magic, then he definitely had talent. Zeke was not against it. Maria told the children that they had something important to discuss with their father. Therefore, let them go to bed early. They will discuss everything tomorrow. The next morning, when the brothers met their parents, their father told them that, regarding the conversation they had yesterday, he and their mother had decided to teach them magic. But first, they would like to take a promise from Mars. Zeke explained that sacred magic is a rare and valuable type of magic that can heal wounds and illnesses. If the protagonist is able to use it, he and their mother think that it is better not to tell anyone about it. The father asked Mars if he understood him. The protagonist answered him with a smile that he understood everything. Zeke said, "Okay, they will start with the basics, and after that, they will understand what kind of magic they each have an inclination for." The father sat down in the lotus position, and the children repeated this position after him. Zeke noted that, to begin with, they need to focus their attention just below the navel. This is where magical power accumulates. Now, let them imagine how this magical energy circulates throughout their bodies. If it doesn't work, even if they have a talent for magic, they won't be able to use it. MC, repeating everything after his father, concentrated and realized that he felt it, the energy that was concentrated in the area of his navel. But it was difficult for him to make it circulate throughout the body. He needed to make it go through his body the same way blood does. Father exclaimed, "Great, it seems they both did it." Then he said in surprise, "Maria, it seems that Mars's magical power has increased significantly." The woman covered her mouth with her hands in surprise and said, "It's true. All that remains is to find out what type of magic they have." She asked her husband, "Will they determine this with a crystal?" He answered her that they are, and they will start with Ike. Zeke brought the crystal to him and asked Ike to say the phrase, "open status." When the boy did this, the father said, "So, Ike has the potential to wield a sword, a spear, and even fire magic. He is, without exaggeration, a gifted child, and it is quite possible that he will become a knight commander." His stats showed HP 4, MP 3, Strength 2, Speed 12, Magic 1, Agility 11, Endurance 12. His special skills were swordsmanship, spearmanship, fire magic. The protagonist's stats were impressive for his age. HP showed 2, MP 872, Strength 1, Speed 1, Magic 3, Agility 1, Endurance 1, Luck 10. His special skills were swordsmanship, wind magic, holy magic. Zeke exclaimed in surprise, "What is this?" His mana level is 877. almost 5 times more than he and Maria have. Mother said with admiration, he's a real genius. In addition to sacred magic, he has a predisposition to wind magic. The next day, the father told the brothers that he had bought a grimoire. They should both devote themselves to it completely. They were worth 2 whole gold coins. So Maria studied with the protagonist, and the father took Ike for training. The parents began to acquaint them with the contents of the books. After some time, they moved on to the practical part of the training. The protagonist began first. He stretched out his hand forward, closed his eyes, and thought that he needed to direct the magical power to his fingers, and when it gathered, pronounced the call, wind. He did everything as he thought, and he managed to create a wind flow. His relatives happily embraced him and said that he was simply great. Mother noted that he really was incredible. Father said what an amazing talent. Ike said that his brother was amazing. He should work hard too. A few days later, Ike was also able to use fire magic. His relatives also wholeheartedly rejoiced at him, almost suffocating him with their hugs. A year later, the brothers came to the training ground again. After a little practice, they assessed their stats. The protagonist had HP 3, MP 1 10 to 52, Strength 3, Speed 3, Magic 17, Agility 5, Stamina 3. His special skill was Wind Magic A, level 5 out of 19, and an additional +5. Ike's stats showed HP 6, MP 40, Strength 4, Speed 3, Magic 17, Agility 5, Stamina 3. His special skills were Swordsmanship and C-Rank Magic, level 1 out of 15, and an additional +1. At that moment, their parents arrived. The brothers were happy to see them and ran to meet them. Their father told them that he brought them something interesting, but he would show it to them later. Maria laughed quietly. The brothers agreed to wait for a certain moment. A little later, when the family gathered at the table, the father took a very beautiful sword out of the bag and showed it to his children. The blade of the weapon was dazzlingly shining. The protagonist recognized this weapon. It was the sword of the spirit of fire. In other words, the salamander sword. Its attack was 30. The special skill was considered magic +2. The protagonist thought even just holding the weapon in his hands, the owner of the sword increased his magical power. Zeke handed the sword to Ike and said that he would give it to him. Not believing his luck, the older brother of MC was very grateful to his parent. Zeke reached into the bag again and said, and now a gift for Mars. He took out a book for him. When Zeke handed it to the protagonist, he told him that he should study it inside and out. It was a grimoire of sacred magic for beginners. The protagonist happily thanked his father for such a valuable gift. A little later, left alone, MC tried to use healing, but nothing worked. The next day he thought, yesterday he was unable to use healing, but if you want, everything will work out. After trying several times, he finally succeeded. A magic circle lit up on his palm. The protagonist shouted to his brother that he had just used healing. Ike asked him in surprise, is this really true? The protagonist asked him why he doesn't use the salamander sword. His brother, laughing, answered him. His father told him to learn the basics first, so he uses this one. Mars said that he understood everything. He thought, his brother is so serious. At that moment, their parents called out to them. The protagonist and his brother were surprised to see that Maria and Zeke were injured. The brothers rushed to them, asking them if they were okay. The father told them that the monster in the dungeon had given him a good beating. Would his children bring him a wet towel? The mother apologized to them for disturbing him. The protagonist asked them to stop. He examined his parents visually and realized that his father's wounds were much more serious than his mother's. The protagonist took a working stance. Zeke noticed in surprise. What is he doing? MC activated healing and directed magical power at his father. Then he repeated the same thing in relation to Maria. The parents looked at him in amazement and began to feel the places where they had wounds. The protagonist asked them if there were any more wounds. In a state of complete bewilderment, the father answered him that there were no wounds, thanks to him. Now they were all right. Maria ran up to her son, hugged him, and thanked him. She added, as she saw, he had already learned to heal. Ike looked at them with a smile. Zeke was thinking about something of his own. A little later, when the family was having tea, Zeke said they need to start their family meeting about their future. He continued, for starters, they will talk about their work with their mother as adventurers. They explore dungeons and exterminate monsters around it. A few days ago, the Count of Carmel, who rules this land, ordered him to kill a monster in the dungeon, so they went deeper into the dungeon. Today, he saw Mars using sacred power, and he wondered if his sons would like to help him and their mother with the work, but not right now, but in a year. He will make this decision after they grow up. Father added that he will try his best to make them stronger. The brothers happily answered him that they are ready for it. Zeke noted that there is something else he would like to tell them. Father smiled and said that they would soon have a younger brother or sister. Ike and the protagonist were very happy about this news. A year later, one day the brothers were also training hard. They began to fight each other fiercely. Lunging at each other, they wielded their weapons with equal dexterity. After another fight, they crossed their swords. The protagonist thought that a lot had happened over the past year. First of all, the brothers' stats had changed. Now MC's HP was 5, MP 3216, Strength 4, Speed 16, Magic 26, Agility 10, Stamina 4. His special skills were Sword Mastery B, level 1 of 17 and +1, Wind Magic A, level 5 of 19 and +5, Holy Magic C, level 2 of 15 and +2. Ike's stats had also improved. His HP was 18, MP 100, Strength 13, Speed 13, Magic 4, Agility 10, Stamina 13. His special skills were Sword Mastery C, level 5 of 15 and +2, Spear Mastery B, level 1 of 17 and +1. Ike had learned how to use a magic sword, but the most important thing was the birth of their little sister Lena. When she was born, the system showed her characteristics: HP 1, MP 0, Strength, Speed, Magic, Agility and Endurance 1, Luck 10. Her special skills were Water Magic D and Earth Magic E. Leaning over her bed, her parents and brothers never tired of admiring her beauty. One evening, over tea, their father said to his brothers, "So a year has passed. They both grew bigger than he expected. Starting tomorrow, he and Ike will go outside the city and clear the area of monsters a little." Zeke added that he would like Mars to support them with his sacred magic, and also to hear everyone's opinion. Ike told his father that he had trained hard until this day, so he really wanted to go with him, and he also wanted his younger brother to go with them. Maria noted that even so, she was still worried. Maybe they would take the main character, and he would heal their wounds. And she was sure of it. The battle would be calm if he was next to them. But he was only 3 years old. Even though he was a gifted child, she still thought that it was too early for him to participate in something like this. It was calmer already, she added, and it was too early for Ike too. She would like to go, but then Lena would be alone. Maria tightly clutched her mug of tea. Then she looked at her youngest son and asked him what he would say about this. MC firmly said that he wanted to go with his father and brother, but he also understood what she, his mother, was talking about. Maria sighed and said that everything was clear to her. Then, the three of them should go together, but let them not go far, and avoid areas saturated with magic. Since they are still children, they cannot use equipment, so let them be prepared for anything, because a situation may arise in which they cannot use healing, and let them not forget to take potions with them. She turned to her husband and told him that she was counting on him. Zeke told her in a cheerful tone that she could rely on him. After a while, leaving the house, Zeke looked at his sons and noticed that they seemed ready to go. The protagonist waved to their mother, who came out to see them off. She shouted at them to take care of themselves. Let them be careful and not overdo it. The father and sons came to the guild. While Zeke went to get the quest, the protagonist and Ike looked around. MC thought, this is the first time he has seen other children like them. He noticed a couple in the distance and looked at their stats. The girl had HP 2, MP 5, Strength 2, Speed 2, Magic 1, Agility 3, Endurance 2, Luck 1. Her special skill was wielding a G-rank dagger. The boy had the same HP and MP as his partner. Strength 3, Speed 2, Magic 1, Agility 2, Endurance 3, Luck 1. He had no special skills. The protagonist wondered if he and his brother were really that strong. At that moment, Zeke came up to them and apologized to them for the delay. He told them that he took the quest to kill monsters. Now they need to move on. Walking through the city, the brothers bravely followed their father. After a while, Zeke said that they needed to go here. The boys saw an entrance in front of them, blocked by a grate, with guards standing near it. They were let through, and the brothers rushed forward. When they stopped and their father approached them, the protagonist was absolutely delighted. A road stretched out in front of them, among small hills, surrounded by a dense forest. Zeke noted that he did not expect them to get there so quickly. The protagonist was surprised to see some movement in the distance. Using the clairvoyance skill, he realized that there were goblins ahead. He looked at their characteristics. Their HP showed 20/20, MP 11, Strength 7, Speed 4, Magic 1, Agility 1, Endurance 6, Luck 1. The relatives came closer to them. Zeke told Ike that he would show him how it was done, and he should try to defeat the last one. He noted that he should be able to defeat it with fire, but just in case, he should keep his sword ready. The father held out his hands and told his eldest son to watch and learn. Zeke activated the stone projectiles and attacked the goblins. He asked Ike if he was ready. The boy told him that he was ready. Ike held out his hands and used the fire skill. In an instant, one goblin was engulfed in flames, and the monster was finished. Zeke noted that it was a good job. Walking over to a small pile of ash, he took out a magic stone from it and told Ike to remember to take the magic item after defeating the monster. Then he would take it to the guild and they would buy it from him. The father continued that he should also make sure to burn the monsters' bodies. It would be problematic if they turned into undead. Zeke called them on their way. The protagonist turned to him and said that the next time they met goblins, he wanted to try using his magic. The parent told him that, unfortunately, the monsters could not be defeated with wind magic, so his answer was no. The protagonist laughed and said that he was using a wind blade, not the wind. Zeke exclaimed in surprise. Had he already mastered this skill? Mars told him that he had learned to use it when he tried different things with the wind. The surprised father noted, that's how it was. Well, then let him try to do it. After a while, they met goblins again. Zeke called the protagonist and said that he would strike right after his youngest son. He added, teaching the protagonist, as soon as the monsters were in the kill zone, let him use his wind blade. The father turned to Ike and suggested that he try to defeat the last goblin with a sword. The eldest son answered that he understood everything. The protagonist extended his hand forward. Zeke prompted him to aim for the enemy's neck. The protagonist waited for the right moment, and letting the opponents get closer, he activated the wind blade. In an instant, a wind stream with blades appeared in the air, which flew straight at the opponents, hitting them. Zeke exclaimed that Mars did a great job. One of the goblins dodged, and Ike jumped up to him, The boy deftly dealt with the monster with one blow. After the battle, they burned the bodies of the defeated enemy and collected all the magic stones. Zeke patted his sons on the head and noted that they both tried hard. He suggested that they hit a few more goblins and then return home. The sons supported their father's idea. Having met a few more opponents, the allies entered into battle with them again. The protagonist used his skill. Ike bravely worked with his weapon. Having destroyed the last goblin and setting their bodies on fire, Ike exclaimed in surprise that his level had increased. He was now level 3, HP 12 out of 17, MP 20 out of 71, Strength 12, Speed 13, Magic 5, and Stamina 12. The father congratulated him on this achievement and suggested that his sons return home. The protagonist happily congratulated his older brother on such an increase in characteristics. After some time, they returned home. After dinner, the protagonist went to bed and dreamily thought that he could not wait for his level to increase too. With these thoughts, he fell asleep. After some time, they came to the dungeon again. Seeing a large crowd of goblins, MC stretched out his hands and thought that today he would definitely increase his level. Activating the wind blade, he dealt with the monsters without much difficulty. After this, the protagonist was surprised to realize that his level was now 13. His HP was 9, MP 2484, Strength 9, Speed 10, Magic 26, Agility 10, and Endurance 10. He happily shouted that his level had risen. Zeke smiled and noted that it must be difficult for him to level up. Ike was very happy for his younger brother. The protagonist noticed, and yet, aren't there a lot of goblins here? This is abnormal. They need to report this to the guild. They killed about 100 goblins yesterday and today. Don't they come across them often? Zeke thought about his words. After a while, Zeke told his family over a family tea party that a lot of monsters have been appearing in Almeria lately. The adventurers are tirelessly cleaning them up. Due to the lack of people, the guild issued a personal quest. It will be a dangerous expedition, so he would like to hear their opinion. Ike answered him with all his seriousness. He thinks they should go. He can help if there are only goblins. Maria objected. She does not think there will be only goblins. What if a stronger monster appears? This is a very dangerous undertaking. The protagonist replied that he is still not strong enough, so he must abandon this. He asked his father, can he postpone this quest for now? Zeke thought about it and finally said that he agreed. They will postpone this quest. He suggested that they destroy monsters as usual and gain experience. The sons happily agreed to his proposal. When they arrived at the place where the monsters gathered, a different kind of enemy was already in front of them. Zeke noted that one kobold was nothing, but when there was a whole horde of them, it was problematic. Their stats showed good indicators. HP 1515, MP 11, Strength 5, Speed 7, Magic 1, Agility 1, Endurance 4, and Luck 1. Zeke said that at such moments it was better to retreat and defeat them one by one. The father and sons did just that. At first they pretended to run away from their opponents, and then they took a fighting stance and began to crush them one by one. Ike and the protagonist were not inferior to their father in agility. The protagonist's older brother chopped the monsters with his magic sword, and the protagonist himself used the wind blade over and over again, cutting the monsters into pieces. Their fight was fierce and very difficult, but in the end, through incredible efforts, they defeated the enemy. A month later, Ike exclaimed that he had increased his level. Now he was level 16, his HP was 44 out of 49, MP 104 out of 312, Strength 50, Speed 39, Magic 28, Agility 22, Endurance 44. His special skills also increased in level. Sword Proficiency C was level 3 out of 15 and plus 2, Spear Proficiency B was level 2 out of 17 and plus 1, and Fire Magic C was level 3 out of 15 and plus 2. The protagonist could also boast of his stats. His level increased to 18, HP 20 out of 25, MP 2720 out of 3424, Strength 18, Speed 29, Magic 41, Agility 46, Stamina 26. His special skills became Swordsmanship B level 2 out of 17 and plus 1, Fire Magic G level 1 out of 5, Water Magic G level 1 out of 5, Wind Magic A level 10 out of 19 and plus 2, and Holy Magic C level 3 out of 15 and plus 2. The brothers set fire to the bodies of the defeated monsters, took the magic items and went home. The protagonist, looking at his sleeping grown-up sister, thought, maybe it's time to talk about Heaven's Eye. A little later, at dinner, MC turned to his parents and said, it seems that now he can use analysis. The parents looked at him in amazement. Zeke asked him in confusion, does he see everyone's status? The protagonist answered that it is. He even sees the status of objects. Ike joyfully exclaimed that it is simply amazing. He was very happy for his little brother's success. The parents hugged. Their child is truly amazing. Mars turned to his father and asked him if they could talk about the expedition to Almeria again. He thinks there are too many goblins here. Zeke noted in surprise, it would probably be a good idea to figure out what is going on here. Maria said that in her opinion, this is a good idea. The father noted that it sounds good. He looked at his sons and told them that they both grew up quickly. Tomorrow, he will pick up the personal quest. The sons were delighted at his words. The next day, when the father and sons were about to set off, Zeke told his wife that the guild thanked them for agreeing to do this task. Maria, seeing them off, asked them to be careful and take care of themselves. The protagonist asked his parent what was to the west if they followed this road. Zeke answered him that there was a mine there. It was abandoned long before he was born. Approaching the place, they met a goblin sentry. The protagonist destroyed him with his skill. Ike set his body on fire. They took the magic stone and moved on. When the allies drove up to the cliff and looked down, they saw a whole goblin village. They were very surprised by what they saw. Below, near one building, there was a huge number of goblins. Zeke told his sons to listen to his plan. After which, Ike first threw fire at the center where the goblins had gathered, causing the rest to immediately rush at Zeke and the protagonist. Ike jumped aside, and then the protagonist and his father entered the battle. They began to destroy the monsters. When they were finished, and the bodies of the opponents were burned, and the magic stones were collected, MC noted that everything went well, which is why his level was raised. His level was now 7, HP 25 out of 30, MP 3426 out of 3427, Strength 23, Speed 25, Magic 46, Agility 39, Stamina 22. He looked at their catch, and noticed that the fires had collected a lot of magic stones, hadn't they? Suddenly, the protagonist's attention was drawn to a large gate. He beckoned his father to come to him in amazement. The allies saw a large door in one of the houses. They wondered what kind of a large door it was. They were dumbfounded when the gate opened slightly, and a simply enormous monster appeared in the opening, behind which stood hundreds of goblins. The protagonist instantly assessed the characteristics of the goblin boss. His HP was 50, MP 1, Strength 25, Speed 18, Magic 1, Agility 1, Stamina 26, and Luck 1. Zeke was surprised to notice that it was a hobgoblin. They were tenacious and hardy. Zeke made a decision. First, they would destroy the goblins, and then deal with their boss. The sons understood their father and prepared for battle. At the moment when the protagonist used his windblade skill, Ike rushed at the hobgoblin with his magic sword. As he ran, the protagonist's blades cut the goblins in half and wounded their boss. The hobgoblin got angry from the wound, and at that moment, Ike jumped to deal him an additional blow. The goblin saw him and growled in a terrible voice. He pushed the protagonist's older brother away from himself. Zeke shouted at Mars to aim for the monster's eyes. While MC followed his father's order, Ike tried to attack the goblin again. The enemy wanted to dodge the attack, but he did not have time, and the protagonist's weapon cut him in the eyes. The monster screwed up his eyes and covered his eyes with his limbs, making terrible cries of pain. At that moment, Ike dealt him his blow and finished off the hobgoblin. Zeke noted the good work of his sons. When all the necessary measures were observed, Ike took one of the magic stones and noted that it was just excellent. Zeke's attention was drawn to an incomprehensible movement behind the gate of the house. Taking a closer look, he realized that it was a labyrinth. He said that if goblins poured out of here, it would be a serious problem. If it was full of monsters and they started to come out, it would be the worst possible scenario. Mars asked him what they would do. Zeke suggested that they look around. If there were goblins there, they would report to the guild that they might be coming out of here. The sons did not object to his decision. Entering inside, they slowed down. Ahead, they saw another gate. Zeke said that they would inspect this area and turn back. Approaching the gate, they opened it slightly and saw 3 goblin mages. The protagonist noted their characteristics: HP 29, MP 24, Strength 10, Speed 6, Magic 15, Agility 6, Endurance 6, Luck 1. Their special skill was Earth Magic, level 1 to 5. Zeke whispered that these were goblins who were mages. They used magic, so eliminating them would be too much trouble. He continued, they needed to be eliminated before they cast a spell, so they needed to act quickly. They rushed at the mages. The goblins did not expect them to appear, and their confusion played into the hands of the allies. There was one mage for each of them, so they dealt with the opponents very quickly. When the allies burned the goblins' bodies and collected the magic stones, Zeke exclaimed that he had found a treasure chest. The father asked the protagonist to check it with an analysis. He added that it could be a trap. The protagonist told him that he understood and scanned the chest. It was a special thing, and its contents depended on luck. He told his father, it seems that this is not a trap. Its contents depend on luck points. Zeke said that this is good. Let him come and open it then. The protagonist did what his father asked him to do. Inside, he found a fire bracelet with 4 magic points and a level of C. Ike exclaimed enthusiastically. With this, his fire would become even stronger. After some time, they came to the guild. Zeke told the registrar that they would like to go to the guildmaster with a report. The registrar asked him if the children were with him too. Zeke said that yes, they would go with him too. When they got to him, Ralph greeted Zeke and noted that he had done a good job. Then he asked him who the children were next to him were. Zeke told him that they were his sons, Ike and Mars. The protagonist and Ike introduced themselves to the guildmaster and said that they were very pleased to meet him. The man told them his name, Ralph Sargent. Zeke told him that they came to talk to him about the quest. He told him everything they saw. He added that the building in the abandoned village had turned into a labyrinth. They had seen a hobgoblin there, and goblin mages. The labyrinth had just begun to grow. If this continued, they would all be in big trouble. Ralph exclaimed in surprise. What was he saying? He would report this to Count Carmel. Zeke made another request. He wanted to register his children as adventurers. He added that they had accompanied him in exploring the labyrinth, and if it weren't for them, he wouldn't have learned so much. Ralph was puzzled. Was he sure about that? They were just kids. Zeke noted that Ike could use a sword, a spear, and fire magic, and Mars could use wind magic. The guildmaster looked at them shrewdly. Was that true? Zeke's sons told him that it was. They had demonstrated their skills to him in a condensed form. Ralph said that was good. He will register them as adventurers. The boys were delighted by his words and thanked the guildmaster from the bottom of their hearts. After some time, the brothers came to the training ground again. After the fight in which Ike defeated his younger brother, the protagonist told him that he could not defeat him. The brother told the protagonist that nothing of the sort. He would become much stronger than him. At that moment, Zeke called out to them. The brothers greeted their father and congratulated him on his return. When they returned home, Zeke said, first, they would talk about the reward. The three of them got it, so they would be dividing it between the three of them. Ike exclaimed that one fire bracelet was enough for him. MC noted, and he would like to learn earth magic. It would be enough for him if his father helped him with it. The parents looked at their children in surprise. Then they laughed, and Zeke noted they were in their usual repertoire. Fine, he would teach him earth magic. The father added that besides that, he had something else to give them. He took something out of his pocket, handed it to his sons, and said that these were their E-rank adventurer cards. Ike reacted enthusiastically to this. The protagonist was surprised. He could not believe that he was finally a real adventurer. The father continued, and now they will talk business. There was a request from the guildmaster and the Earl of Carmel. They want them to join the other adventurers in exploring the labyrinth. As a reward for this, they promised him the title of Baron. Zeke asked his sons what they thought about this. Maria said, then they should agree. Ike was of the same opinion as his mother. The protagonist also supported his relatives. He was not against taking on this matter. Zeke said, okay, then they will take on this job. Thus, they joined the other adventurers and everyone set out on a journey. After 6 months, they returned. The protagonist told his brother that they had excellent loot today. Maria laughed and suggested that they quickly return home and have lunch together. D-rank group Blue Fang thanked Zeke for his work. Maria thanked them for looking after Lynn. A little later, the whole family gathered in their house of Baron Bryant. Zeke suggested that the household explore the labyrinth deeper. The four of them can handle it, let everyone be ready. The brothers greeted his suggestion with delight. The next day, the family arrived at the place. Standing in front of the gate, Zeke asked his relatives, are they ready? Then, they are moving out. Once inside the labyrinth, they saw a large crowd of goblins. Zeke asked his sons, can they handle them together? Ike and the protagonists told him that they would do it and rushed to attack the opponents. The goblins standing in the front rows rushed towards the brothers. Ike used his magic sword and the protagonist activated the wind blade. They dealt with the front flank of the monsters without much difficulty, but the second row puzzled them. Among the goblins were magicians who managed to activate their magic power. They directed it at the brothers, and the protagonists did not have time to dodge. He was hit. Ike anxiously followed his brother. The protagonist instantly came to his senses, and with redoubled force attacked the opponents. When there was only one goblin left in front of them, he wanted to strike MC, but the protagonist deftly dodged, and remembering his father's advice to aim for the enemy's eyes, struck the monster in the eyes. The goblin clutched his face, making terrible sounds, and at that moment, Ike thrust the spear right into his forehead. The goblin screamed and fell to the floor. He was finished. The brothers saw the chest. Mars used analysis and saw that it contained a fire spear, the attack power of which showed 20 points. Ike was very happy with this find. When the family began to go back, they saw another gate. Coming out of it, Zeke said that they needed to rest in a safe zone. Having settled down, the allies began to have a snack. Their mood was simply excellent. The protagonist's level has risen to 9, HP 46, MP 4528, Strength 32, Dexterity 35, Magic Power 61, Flexibility 50, and Stamina 31. Magic Power 57 plus 4, Flexibility 47 plus 3, and Endurance 28 plus 3. After a snack, they went down to the second floor. There, they were also met by a large number of goblins. The family took a fighting stance, and the four of them simply crushed the opponents. In front of them, the allies saw another gate. Zeke noticed its size. It was very large. When they got inside, goblins led by their general were waiting for them. Zeke exclaimed in amazement. It was a goblin general. The protagonist saw his characteristics: HP 72, MP 11, Strength 35, Agility 25, Magic Power 1, Flexibility 1, Endurance 38, and Luck 1. Zeke noted that the presence of a general on this floor meant that the Goblin King was waiting for them at the very end. Maria noted that it was a rather convenient dungeon for beginners. Zeke turned to his sons and told them that today they would see themselves fighting with their mother for the first time. Maria told them to watch carefully. The general gestured for his troops to attack their opponents. The goblins rushed at the brothers' parents, but Zeke activated an Earth Fortress, and Maria an Ice Fortress. Two large obstacles appeared in front of the monsters. The general became angry, unsheathed his huge axe, and moved forward. He approached the obstacles and began to swing his weapon furiously, dealing with the fortresses. Maria and Zeke simultaneously exclaimed that now was the right moment, and with powerful blows attacked the goblins along with the general. Ike and the protagonist watched in amazement. Numerous gaping holes appeared in the monsters. They all fell dead. Only the general remained without his ammunition and with a broken axe. He stood for a while, then he staggered, and also fell to the floor, joining the undead ranks of his comrades. The parents looked at their sons and with a smile asked them, "How are you?" The brothers responded with admiration that it was great. Meanwhile, in the Labyrinth city of Grantham, Clarice was playing with a cat in her arms. One of the adventurers ran up to her, called her name, and told her that something bad had happened. After a while, when the girl came to the hospital, she saw many wounded adventurers there. One of them, with a bandaged head, waved his hand at her and asked her if she would heal them. Clarice answered him that she would do it, and activated the healing. At this time, in the dungeon, the Baron's family entered the spawn room of the goblin generals. Zeke noted that even if they were killed, they would come back to life again. The parents created a fortress, placed themselves in it, and Zeke told his sons to gain experience. He wished them luck, adding that they should defeat everyone alone. The brothers fought fiercely against the goblin generals. They attacked them again and again, not giving them time to recover. In the end, despite the difficult battle, the protagonist and Ike still dealt with the monsters, and so they destroyed increasingly stronger opponents. A year later, their stats were quite high. The protagonist was level 14, his HP was 82, MP 5578, Strength 52, Dexterity 55, Magic Power 85, Flexibility 73, and Stamina 50. Ike's stats showed his level was 19, HP 101, MP 840, Strength 69, Dexterity 52, Magic Power 37, Flexibility 29 and Stamina 65. Told them that they did everything perfectly. They worked hard. Now they were moving on. The allies went down to the 3rd floor. In front of them they saw just a huge gate, decorated with a monument of a goblin head. Zeke said, "It looks like a boss room." He sighed, noted, "Well," and opened the gate. He commanded his family to go forward. Once inside, they were surprised to see a large room, in the depths of which the Goblin King himself sat on a throne. In front of him stood his formidable guards in armor. The protagonist assessed the guards' stats. They were goblin lords. Their HP was 108, 108, MP 2121, Strength 60, Agility 42, Magic Power 5, Flexibility 1, Endurance 63. The Goblin King himself looked terrifying. He had several horns on his head, arranged in the form of a crown, and in his paws was a huge sword. The protagonist analyzed his stats. They inspired fear. His HP was 150, MP 3131, Strength 82, Agility 53, Magic Power 5, Flexibility 4, Endurance 74. He had special skills in the form of increased regeneration and summoning monsters. Zeke, Maria, Ike, and the protagonist stared at him in amazement. MC thought he was using magic? The brothers turned to their parents and asked to leave the Goblin Lords and the Goblin King to them. The opponents rushed at each other, and a heavy fight ensued between them. The parents watched their sons in amazement, how competently and clearly, skillfully they acted in their tandem, dealing with the monsters. They jumped over the guards and attacked the Goblin King himself. He tried to strike with a sly smile, but Ike blocked the blow and the protagonist attacked. After that, they landed on the ground. The Goblin King smiled and began to attack them. A fierce fight began between them. At one point, the monster grabbed Ike's weapon and struck. The guy dodged at the last moment, but still got a little hurt. The parents ran to him excitedly. He nervously apologized and explained that he let his guard down. The protagonist looked at him and shouted that he was going to heal him now. At that moment, the Goblin King attacked him from behind. He sharply dodged and thought, was he not letting him heal him? Then he would fight him alone. They began to attack each other and attack. The Goblin King dealt a good blow, from which the protagonist flew back, but he pushed off the wall and in an instant dealt a powerful blow to the leg. The monster retreated in fear and summoned monsters. He, seeing this, used wind magic with a smile and destroyed everyone. After that, the Goblin King was horrified. MC noted with a smile that it seemed that he used up all his mana. He cut off his head, and a notification appeared stating that a title had been obtained. Wind King is a title that is received by those who are among the top 10 wind players in the world. Goblin Slayer increases attack power and defense when fighting against goblins. If after receiving this title, someone else fulfills the conditions of the title, then he will also be able to receive it. He also received the Robe of Ifrit, Defense 40, Special, Magic Power +2, Endurance +4. Maria happily hugged him and exclaimed that he was great. Zeke said with a smile, let him think that they both cleared the dungeon. The protagonist noted with a smile that he received the titles of King of the Wind and Goblin Slayer. Father asked in surprise, even titles? This is simply amazing. After some time in the Labyrinth city of Grantham, Clarice's mother asked if she would go today too. Father said with a smile, let her just not overexert herself. The girl happily agreed and set off. Arriving at the hospital, she began to treat people. Clarice cured a man and, calling the next one, thought that there were a lot of patients lately. After some time, having finished her work, she went outside. Next to her, men were talking about the fact that a kobold was seen in the city this morning. He's worried that the labyrinth might overflow. Clarice went further and, seeing a sauna, went inside and then began to wash herself and happily thought that it was nice here. She hopes that nothing bad will happen because of the saturation of the labyrinth. After some time, the girl went outside and happily thought, which was very good. She saw a cat on a barrel and began to stroke it with admiration. After some time, Clarice came to a cafe. The man sitting next to her said that the number of monsters in the labyrinth is predetermined, but for some reason, the number of monsters continues to grow. They simply do not fit inside and come out. This is called the saturation of the labyrinth. Did she understand? The girl agreed with surprise. He added with a smile that there is no need to worry, because this happens rarely. It is better for her to eat already. This is in gratitude for the treatment. She began to eat ice cream and admire the taste. At this time, at the entrance to the labyrinth, the leader of the army shouted that today too, in order to prevent the saturation of the labyrinth, they will go hunting monsters. They are the knightly order of Count Beetle. They will do everything possible for the common people and the Count. All knights shouted and grabbed their spears. Suddenly, a strange sound was heard, and in an instant, the gates of the labyrinth opened, from where a crowd of monsters poured out. The leader was captured by goblins, but he confidently shouted that they should not be afraid and hold the line. The guard watching this from the tower thought in fear that this was a disaster. He began to knock on the bell and shout that the labyrinth was saturated. They urgently needed an immediate evacuation. All the inhabitants of the city began to run away in fear. The man sitting in the cafe with Clarice, with a serious face, noted that it seemed that something bad had happened. Let her run home. The girl thought about her parents, when suddenly someone shouted if there was anyone who could help the wounded adventurer. She agreed and ran to them. After some time, the volunteer adventurers began to fight off the monsters on the streets of the city. At this time, Clarice, healing the man, asked if he was okay. She would heal him now. After that, she began to heal other people. The adventurer, watching this, put on his brass knuckles and noticed that the little girl was working very hard. They could not fail. A fierce battle began between them, when suddenly another army of monsters crawled out from the other side. Seeing this, they began to run away in fear. Because of this, the adventurer's squad was surrounded. One of them shouted that he should stay here and let them help the others. They had no other choice. Not let them get closer. At this time, Clarice, healing people, nervously thought that she hoped that her parents were okay. Suddenly, her father called out to her. She looked to the side and saw how her mother was helping him walk because he was injured. The girl excitedly ran up to him and said, "She will heal him now." Her father answered with a smile that it was not necessary. Now it was better for her to heal the adventurers. People began to ask her to heal them first. An argument began between them about who would be healed first. Suddenly, Baron Bam, a noble, appeared and motioned for them to move out of his way. The nobles should be treated first. The boy pulled up his sleeve and showed a small bruise, saying that it should be treated here. Clarice, seeing this, bowed her head and said that it was just a small bruise. She would treat it later. It was more important to treat the adventurers now. He slapped her in the face and exclaimed furiously, "Was this really a joke? She should be executed for mocking him." The boy took out his sword and tried to strike, but suddenly her parents covered her. The father took the blow, causing a deep wound on his back. The nobleman shouted furiously, "Did he dare to interfere with him?" He asked him to forgive his daughter. After that, he fell to the ground. Clarice excitedly began to treat him, but nothing happened. She tearfully thought that it was useless, because she had run out of mana. Bam raised his sword and said that the punishment for them would be the death penalty. Let them die and repent. He swung and tried to strike, when suddenly the protagonist appeared, who neutralized him with one blow. He healed Clarice's father and, taking the sword, said with a smile that now he would deal with the goblins. Let them explain the situation later. After some time, the girl herself, watching this, in wild shock thought that this boy single-handedly defeated all the goblins. All the adventurers happily began to thank him. Suddenly, Count Beetle arrived at the scene. Clarice grabbed the protagonist by the hand and said that there was one more thing. She asked him to follow her. Beetle, sitting on a horse, with a serious face inquired about the situation and how many were wounded. The aristocrat, furiously showing his elbow, shouted that he was wounded. He was attacked and wounded. Let him please tell them to treat him first. The Count replied that his bruise could be put off until the end. Let them treat the seriously wounded first. Bam nervously exclaimed that he was an aristocrat. Beetle shouted furiously, "Let him shut up." The guy angrily said that it was all because of him. After some time, Clarice's parents thanked the protagonist. He thanked him in return and apologized if he overstepped. Father noted with a smile that he surprised them very much, because he was so young and already strong. Clarice thought about how amazing it was that he was the same age as her. She approached him and thanked him with a smile in Japanese. MC wondered in surprise, this girl speaks Japanese? Could she really be reborn then? He smiled and replied that he was very happy. The protagonist approached her and hugged her, saying that he had finally found her. His name is Yuto. He is 20 years old. And in this world, his name is Mars, and he is 7 years old. The girl tearfully said that she is Aoi Ayanokuji. She is also 20 years old. But in this world, she is Clarice, and she is also 7 years old. The father and mother, watching this, were completely shocked. MC excitedly let her go, and apologizing said that he was just a little surprised. His name is Mars. They introduced themselves with smiles. The father asked if he had a minute. Sometime later, in their house, he asked in wild shock. He is from the kingdom of Barkus. He is now in the Labyrinth city of Grantham, located in the east of the kingdom of Zarkum. How did he end up here? The protagonist said that together with his brother Ike, they were exploring the labyrinth. In one of the rooms, he found a wall from which strange magical power emanated. While he was exploring it, his hand was sucked in. At that moment, the protagonist told his brother that his hand was sucked in and he could not get out. He will try to just go inside. He has a crystal with him that will help him determine his location. Let him please take it quickly and don't forget to report this to his father. When he was sucked in, he ended up here. Gray currently said that it was because their kingdoms were at war. If he wanted, he could stay with them. Irina smiled and said that they would show him their hospitality. MC bowed his head, thanked them, and said that it would be very appropriate. Clarice smiled and called out to her father and asked if she could talk to Mars. The protagonist happily thought that it was good that she remembered his name. Gray smiled and looked at her and agreed. The girl took him into the room and closed the door. Sitting on the bed, she asked what he saw then. He told her everything that happened to him. Clarice said that she understood everything. That robber is also in this world. It is better not to speak Japanese in public. Suddenly, strange sounds were heard from the street. They looked out the window and saw many warriors. The protagonist was confused and asked, "Were the goblins showing up again?" Clarice got nervous and took his hand. He smiled and said that he would go to help. She exclaimed that he was from a hostile country. MC answered with a smile that people were the same everywhere. He would protect everyone and her especially. The girl hugged him and thanked him. After that, he took the sword and left the room, and then said that it seemed like the goblins had shown up again, so he would go. Gray asked excitedly if he was sure. If they found out that he was from a hostile country, they would not be able to protect him. The protagonist answered with a smile that he was ready for that. After that, he went outside and went to the count. Upon arriving there, the protagonist asked with a smile if he could join in. Bam saw him and furiously exclaimed that it was that damn thief. Beetle shouted nervously, "Was it he who stole the nobleman's sword? He would deal with the theft later. Now let him go and not interfere." A warrior approached him and said, "Let him not rush. This boy defeated all the goblins single-handedly." He asked in wild shock, "This boy alone? Okay, will he lend them his strength?" MC answered with a smile that he was going to do so. He would not miss the opportunity to help. At that moment, on the front lines, all the warriors were dying one by one at the hands of the goblins. Knight Commander Blair, looking at his dead comrades, thought that this was the end. But if he retreated, the locals would suffer. He barely got up, and taking the sword, thought with a serious face that he was ready to die here, but he would stop them. At that moment, a huge goblin approached him, raising his hand to finish him off. Suddenly the main character appeared, who in an instant began to destroy all the goblins. Blair, seeing this, thought in wild shock, "What a technique." The protagonist, having killed everyone, noted with a smile that the goblins were destroyed. He could rest easy. The surviving warriors began to thank him. He replied with a smile, "Let them return." The count was waiting for them. After some time at the gates of the kingdom, the knights began to rejoice, seeing the protagonist. Beetle happily said that the city was saved thanks to him. They would deal with Baron Bams later. Now it was more important to discuss his reward. After some time in the Adventurers Guild, Victor, the guildmaster, said that he said thanks on behalf of the city. He was the local guildmaster. To begin with, would he give his name? MC replied that his name was Mars. He had a question for him. Is there a way to stop the saturation of the labyrinth? He answered with a thoughtful look that it could be stopped by conquering the labyrinth. But the protagonist asked when the labyrinth would be conquered. The guildmaster replied that their country was currently at war and they were short of hands. The conquest was not progressing at all. He said with a serious face that he understood everything. Then he would conquer the labyrinth. The guildmaster exclaimed in wild shock that even a group of 4 C-rank adventurers had not returned from there. Beetle asked in surprise. He would go alone. It was too dangerous. Suddenly, Clarice burst into the room and said, "Let him take her with him." Victor exclaimed in shock. She wanted to go to the labyrinth with him? Even though she possessed holy magic, it was still too dangerous. She replied that leaving things as they were was even more dangerous. She would go with him, and then there would be a greater chance of success. The protagonist said that he was asking him to let her go with him. The count agreed and added that it was all because the situation was urgent. He would do his best to support them. What did he want as a reward? The protagonist replied that he would promise to protect the Rampart family. After a while, he thought that he and Clarice explained the problems they had with that nobleman. Beetle said with a serious face that he understood everything. He would guarantee their safety. They thanked him and left. The guildmaster was surprised to see that they were amazing children. The count agreed and told him to ask Mars to register as an adventurer. After a while, at Clarice's house, MC thought her parents would object, but they easily agreed. He wanted to go home quickly, so he needed to conquer the labyrinth. But he would worry about this city and Clarice if he left. He had to make her stronger. If she became stronger and also conquered the labyrinth, she would achieve a lot. The next day, they set off. The protagonist said that before conquering the labyrinth, she had to become stronger. First, he assessed her abilities. He used the skill Heavenly Eye and began to study her stats. Clarice said with admiration that she couldn't believe that she had a talent for barrier magic. How could she use it? The protagonist replied that he didn't know either. They would start with what they could definitely do. By the way, he wasn't a swordsman at all, but a mage who used wind magic. And he could also do a little holy magic. The girl was very surprised. He asked her what she thought was the fastest way for a person to become stronger. Clarice suggested that she should strive harder than anyone else. MC replied that that was also true, but the correct answer was practice. After a while, he put her against a goblin and told her to defeat him first. The girl, holding a sword in her hands, became very nervous and wondered how to do it. The sword was very heavy. Would she really be able to handle it? Would she be able to defeat it? He called out to her and shouted that she shouldn't sleep. At that moment, the goblin began to attack her. Clarice closed her eyes and, swinging her sword at random, defeated the monster. The protagonist asked if she was okay. Maybe she wanted to change her mind? He could go alone. The girl said that when that nobleman wanted to kill her father, she couldn't do anything. Although it would be hard for her, she wanted to become stronger so that she could protect her family. She asked him to give her another chance. He smiled and agreed, pointing to let her get used to the weight of the sword. After that, another goblin appeared. Clarice, with a serious face, holding the sword, wondered what she could do. The moment the monster began to attack, she deftly struck and destroyed it. The protagonist said with a smile that she had done a great job. The girl fell to her knees in wild shock. He asked excitedly what was wrong with her. She answered with a smile that the tension just melted away. The MC thought that this was Clarice's first step. She was quickly becoming stronger. She trained every day until she could hold the sword tightly. Along with various loot, she collected better equipment. Little by little, she became stronger. After some time, returning from the clinic, the protagonist noticed that lately people even came to her clinic from other cities. The girl replied that there were many more people she didn't know. Suddenly, he felt someone's presence and suddenly became wary. She, noticing this, asked what was wrong with him. The protagonist replied that nothing special. Let her not pay attention. He thought that he felt someone's gaze. The girl said with a smile that they could go to a restaurant today. They need to eat meat to restore their strength. MC agreed with her, and they went to the restaurant. At this time, Blair was watching them from around the corner. After some time, he put the Goblin General and said that now she should have enough strength to defeat the Goblin General alone. Clarice, armed with a bow, thought that she should keep her distance from large opponents. She needs to blind him. She shot him in the eye and thought that now she would make him lose his balance. The girl began to shoot the goblin, not letting him move. At the last moment, she shot him right in the head and, having defeated him, thought that she had won. The protagonist said with a smile that he knew she could handle it. Clarice bowed her head and said that, thanks to him, she became stronger. For this, she thanks him. They should go back and rest. After some time, they had a picnic in nature and began to eat sandwiches. The girl, having bitten it, admiringly said that it was delicious. MC asked with a smile if she was very hungry. She replied that she had spent a lot of energy and that she was hungry. He thought with a smile that they would be heading into the labyrinth tomorrow. These fun days would come to an end. Clarice, seeing his expression, asked why he was looking at her like that. The protagonist replied that he was just thinking what delicious sandwiches they were. After some time, the day of exploring the labyrinth came. The protagonist, seeing the Count's army, thanked them for coming. Suddenly, he felt a gaze on him again and asked if the Count felt that they were being watched. The first time he felt it a long time ago, but today it was especially strong. He replied that he had already taken care of this problem. He needed to focus on conquering the labyrinth. MC agreed with a smile and thought that something seemed to be happening, but now it was more important to conquer the labyrinth. After some time, the Count's army broke through the goblins a little. Beetle said that they would stop here. The rest was up to them. They said goodbye and went on. After a while, having killed the monsters and standing near the door, the protagonist said that this was the boss's room. Let her leave it to him. The girl agreed and they went inside. In front of them was the Goblin King, who was sitting on the throne. She thought with fear that he was very different from the other goblins. The protagonist used the tornado skill and destroyed the boss in an instant, and then noted that they had conquered the labyrinth. Now it was time for them to go back. At this time, the aristocrat Bams, sitting in his mansion, said with a sly smile that his plan was perfect. The Count would be finished. He hired 200 mercenaries with his own money. They would easily deal with the Count's knights. He would stage a real coup. He would become the ruler of this city. Suddenly, there was a knock on his room. Bams with a sly smile asked, "Have they already come with a report?" He opened the door and asked, "Were the knights killed?" Beetle himself stood at the threshold with his warriors. After some time, the protagonist and Clarice returned from the labyrinth. The guard, seeing them, thanked them for their work and asked how things were in the labyrinth. He replied that they had already finished. The warrior exclaimed with admiration that the two of them were simply amazing. The Count had already returned home, so he would see them off. After some time, they arrived at the Count's estate. Beetle happily noted that they had returned, and alive at that. MC, seeing Bam tied up, asked in bewilderment what was going on here. He said that while they were conquering the labyrinth, the aristocrat had been trying to stage a coup. He had been buying up weapons and hiring motley mercenaries for a long time. He often did things that had nothing to do with his authority. That's why he had been watching him and was glad that he had prevented his plans. The Count approached him and said that he was losing his title of Baron and would be taken into custody. Let them take him away. After that, The guards took him out of the room. Beetle happily approached them and, thanking them, said that they were the heroes of their country. Thanks to their achievement, Rampart would now receive the title of Baron. Gray, hearing this, almost in tears, thanked them. The Count said that he should give him his answer later, when he decided. He said with a smile that of course, but he needed to consult with his family. The protagonist said that they would go then. Beetle called out to him and asked him to stay with him today. He agreed, and after a while, it was time to eat. Sitting down at a table with a large number of different dishes, the Count said that he was sorry for what Bam had done. Let him forgive him for following him. The protagonist replied that everything was fine. They began to eat, and Beetle said that it was time to get down to business. He called his name, and MC fearfully wondered if he had been exposed. The Count said with a smile that he should not worry. He knows that he is not hostile to them. After a while, the protagonist thought that he was trying to register him as an adventurer. Then he found out that he was already registered in the Barkus Kingdom, so he had to tell them about his current situation. Beetle thoughtfully noted that it did not seem like he could be teleported back. Good, he would make sure that he was sent back. The preparations would take about a week. He would write a letter so that they would understand that they were safe. After a while, already on the street, standing next to the carriage, the protagonist said that they had helped him a lot. Gray replied with a smile that thanks to him, their family was saved. The Earl thanked him with a smile. He replied that this was a big thank you to them. Let Clarice take care of herself. He was having a lot of fun with her. Suddenly, she happily said that she would go with him. The girl hugged her crying parents and said that everything would be fine. She would come back. The Count, watching this, noticed that it seemed like she wanted to go with him. Clarice wiped away her tears and said with a smile that it was time for them to go. MC happily shed tears and, agreeing, they climbed into the carriage and set off. Gray, watching the carriage leave, shouted to keep an eye on Clarice. Let them look in at least sometimes. After a while, the protagonist thought that the trip with her went smoothly until they got to this city. After some time, they came to a local restaurant in another city. The girl said with a smile that traveling was fun. He replied that it was even more fun with her. She blushed very deeply in response. Suddenly, one of the cafe's patrons shouted that he had an urgent quest. They needed to find an escaped slave. She ran away into the monster forest. They couldn't find her there. Another man asked if she was some kind of special slave. He replied that she was an elf. He would pay 100 gold. Please let someone take on this quest. The protagonist said that it was time for them to leave. One of the adventurers said that 100 gold was a large reward, but the forest was full of monsters. It was dangerous even for a B-rank party. Money was important, of course, but life was more important. Just let him forget about that slave. After a while, they set off on their way in a carriage. Clarice asked if he had ever seen elves. He answered with a smile that he had never seen them. What about her? The girl answered that she had never seen them either. MC asked if they were right next to that forest now. He opened the map and suddenly thought warily that Count Beetle had shown him a safe route. But why are they driving through the forest? Suddenly, Clarice called out to him and shouted for him to look there. An elf girl appeared right in their path. A huge black snake was crawling behind her. The girl screamed in surprise that she had never seen such a big snake. She was running towards them. They could hit her with a carriage. The protagonist grabbed the sword and screamed that he would deal with the snake and let her protect the girl. He jumped out of the carriage right at the monster and began to attack it. The snake fiercely attacked him and spat poison. MC dodged and, seeing this, screamed excitedly, "Is this poison? The wind blade does not work?" He used the skill Eye of Heaven and, seeing the stats of the snake, wondered, does it have higher stats than the Goblin King? He will have to use stronger skills. At this moment, Clarice took out her bow and began to shoot at the enemy. The protagonist called out to her and warned her that it was releasing poison. Let her be careful. Let her buy him time. The girl agreed and began to run away from the snake. He, accumulating energy, thought, let it hold out a little longer. The protagonist began to create 2 elemental balls, when suddenly the snake felt it and rushed towards him. He thought that he needed a little more. At the last moment, when the snake tried to attack him, Clarice created a barrier and bought some more time. MC used the skill Firestorm and instantly destroyed the monster. After that, he asked in surprise, was it barrier magic? She saved him. The girl agreed with a smile and added that it was a desperate step, but she succeeded. The protagonist asked where the elf was. She answered that she hid her in the carriage. After that, they approached her and asked if she was safe. Misha asked in fear, will they return her to the merchant? She does not want to go there and will not return. Clarice approached her and answered with a smile that they are not going to return her. Suddenly, the girl with tears in her eyes grabbed her and started hugging her. She asked with a smile what her name was. The elf, without moving away from her, introduced herself. Clarice asked if she would tell her what happened. She said that this man said he would take her to her mother, but he kidnapped her. She wants to go to her mother. MC said with a smile that everything was decided. They would find her mother together. Misha thanked them with tears and noted that they simply saved her. After that, they also introduced themselves, and the main character thought that now their goals included finding Misha's mother. After that, they decided that first they should wash themselves. He used earth magic and a round bathtub appeared in front of him, and then filled it with water magic and heated it with fire. The protagonist smiled and noted that the bathtub was ready. Clarice and Misha looked at it in surprise and began to take off their clothes. They lay down in the bathtub, and Misha asked in surprise, "Is she the same age as her?" Clarice agreed, so she can talk freely. She noted that we are the same age and noticed her breasts. Clarice asked what kind of person her mother is. Misha answered that her mother is a B-rank adventurer. She is very strong and beautiful, and she also has big breasts like hers. After some time, Misha put on a dress and admiringly said that it looks cute, a little bigger than her size, but everything is fine. And then she thanked them, and they set off. The protagonist said that they are heading out before it gets dark. After some time, they arrived in a city that Count Beetle had asked them to avoid. There was clearly nothing for children to do here. They were walking through the city, and MC was looking around, when suddenly a seller asked him, "Is he a knight's apprentice? He will sell this sword for 10 gold, and it is a masterpiece." Mars thought, "Is this some kind of scam?" He refused. He has no money with him. The seller smiled and noted that one cannot run away from such luck. The protagonist said that he would like to take a quest and also find out if it is possible to spend the night here somewhere. He said that there are no quests and the inn is across the street. The protagonist thanked him and left. The man sarcastically said, "What a little adventurer." MC was walking down an alley and thought that he was being followed. Suddenly, he was called out and turning around, he noticed in front of him. The protagonist thought, "This is that swindler." The seller noted. He said that one cannot miss the chance. Mars smiled and apologized, but he wouldn't buy it. The seller nervously shouted that he couldn't hear him. Suddenly, 2 men appeared behind him, trying to grab him, but he deftly jumped up and appeared behind them, taking out his sword. The man noted that he moved well. He would sell for a lot at the auction. It would be a great success. MC thought, an auction? What are they even talking about? He needs to go back to Clarice and Misha. Criminal told him not to resist, and then the 2 girls they found nearby would not be lonely. Mars came to his senses and threw the sword on the ground, saying that he would be obedient and asked to let him meet them. The criminal put a bag over his head and happily said that today was a great day. A few minutes later, they came to the building. The criminal said that they brought great goods. Hid said contentedly that they did a good job. The night auction would be great, and then asked to be taken to his room. They walked down the corridor and opened the door and led him into the room. The criminal slammed the door and ordered not to touch them. Misha and Clarice were happy to see him, but he asked them to be quiet. "Are they okay? Are they hurt?" Clarice noted that they handled the goods well. Mars said, "At least something good." She smiled and apologized for getting caught. He smiled and said, "No big deal." Misha hugged her in fear and said that she was scared. MC said that everything will be fine, because he let them get caught to save them. He will save them and together they will find her mother, so she should be patient for a little while. Misha smiled and agreed, when suddenly the criminals entered the room and ordered them to go out. They entered the room where there were people, and Mars smiled and thought, "They're weapons, but they just need to find an opportunity." Hyde came out on stage and thanked everyone for waiting. The auction of the Hyde Trading Company is starting. Today they will have the best auction they have ever had. He asked to stay until the very end, and they will start with the first item. Bam appeared on the stage, and Hyde said that this was their former baron from the kingdom of Zarkum. He is a former aristocrat, so he can write and read. The starting price is 1 gold. Hid happily said that he was expecting their joyful exclamations. The crowd of people asked with displeasure, "Is this a joke? They do not need this," and began to ask for the next one. Hid apologized for such a miscalculation, and as an apology, he will immediately show the guests of their program. The curtains parted to the sides, and Mars, Clarice, and Misha appeared on the stage. Hid noticed golden eyes, very disciplined, a boy without flaws, clear skin, shiny silver hair, and crystal blue eyes. Having seen her once, they will never be able to take their eyes off her again. A real beauty. A very rare elf with emerald eyes and red-brown eyes. The starting price is 150 gold. The crowd of people began to raise their hands with interest and offer their terms. 100 gold for the boy, 150 for the girl, and 200 for the elf. For all 3, 800 gold. 1,000 gold for everyone. Misha got scared and pressed herself against Clarice, after which the crowd of people exclaimed joyfully, "It seems the elf was scared by the way they were betting." The man raised his hand and said that he liked her and would give 10,000 gold for the 3. Hid asked in surprise, 10,000 gold? Will anyone give more? No one is there? 10,000 gold was sold, so he congratulated him. Suddenly, a man entered the hall and said that this elf belongs to him. He took what belonged to him. He ordered his subordinates to take her, and they rushed into a fight with Hid's subordinates. The protagonist was surprised and thought, "This is a chance." The subordinates began to fight right in the hall, and Mars, looking at this, thought that a battle had begun here. The crowd of people began to scatter to the sides, and he thought that no one was paying attention to them anymore, and this was their chance. He took off the handcuffs, when suddenly the criminal came on stage and said that they would take the guy and the girls. He turned to him in bewilderment and asked how he got free. The main character immediately defeated him with magic, saying that he would take his sword, when suddenly his eyes began to hurt and Clarice worriedly asked, "Is everything okay?" MC smiled and said that everything was fine and they should leave. Hyde noticed them and shouted that they were trying to escape and ordered to take them. The criminal waved his sword happily and said with a laugh that he had not had such fun fighting for a long time. The guy said that he was at his limit and he said goodbye to him. The man said that he could find someone who could resist his sleep magic. The seller sat on the man and said, "So big, but weak." The man looked at his unconscious subordinates in surprise and said angrily that they were useless idiots, and in that case, he was asking him. Kurt took up his sword and asked if it was okay if they couldn't fight anymore. He handed him a bag of coins. Kurt said that he wouldn't hurt those who ran away, but if they stayed, they should start praying, so he was giving them 5 seconds to think. The criminal said in confusion, "He looks strong. Formation B." According to Mars, the 2 in the vanguard block the enemy's movement. The mage is preparing a spell, and the last one protects the mage, while he is defenseless. If he were a monster, maybe it would have worked. The subordinates rushed at Kurt, but he threw a bag of coins at him, and he flew to the side. He stood in front of them and asked where they were looking. The subordinate shouted that he would cover them, so he could attack him. Kurt attacked them with a large sword and hit them. The seller with his mouth open fought the whole group in one moment. He attacked him and screamed in fear. Everyone looked at them in surprise, and Kurt put the tip of the sword on the ground. All the subordinates got scared and started to run away, while Hyde asked displeasedly, "Where are they running?" Kurt looked at MC and thought, there is still such a kid. Hyde even hires such kids? He jumped to him and asked, he doesn't want to end up like them, does he? He won't do anything if he leaves. The protagonist said that this is a misunderstanding. Kurt shouted displeasedly that this is not a request, because he does not like to hurt children. Suddenly Mars's eyes began to hurt and Kurt swung at him, after which he missed the blow through him. The protagonist thought in surprise, is this an illusion? Can he really see the future? MC dodged, and he thought in surprise, he already dodged his attack twice? This can't be an accident. Who is he? Mars put his sword in front of him and asked if he said that he would let them go. He refused because he was interested in him, so he would not let them go. The protagonist looked at him in surprise and was surprised. These were the highest stats he had ever seen. Kurt swung his sword, but he deftly dodged the blow and said that he could not dodge. Mars swung his sword and thought how heavy the sword was, and then parried his attack. Kurt was surprised and thought what an amazing talent. He had never met such talented young men. Why was he helping a slave trader? He said that such talent was wasted in him. MC thought what to do. Run away from him? And why did he use his power like that? How could he save Clarice and Misha? He deceived, kidnapped a poor elven girl. Is he not ashamed? Clarice told Hid not to come near, when suddenly Kurt came to his senses and released a sea blade at Hid. He said that it seems he was very wrong and he is not his enemy, since his real client is Misha's mother, Sasha. What is his name? He answered that his name was Mars. Kurt asked what kind of attack that was. It was clearly not fencing. The man gritted his teeth in displeasure and thought they had suddenly become friends. Could they bring him an elven child? Suddenly, arrows pierced his body and he fell to the floor. Sasha shot an arrow at Hid and hit him in the shoulders. Suddenly, an arrow flew at the main character, but Kurt held his sword in front of him, saving his life. He asked, "Is she already here? This man is not an enemy." He asked him to go to the Lister National School. The strongest people in the world gather at this school. Kurt asked him to say that he came on his recommendation. Did he remember? Sasha thanked him and jumped down, when suddenly Misha ran out from behind him and called her. Sasha happily hugged her, and she said that her mother was sad. Sasha agreed, but now everything is okay. Now everything is fine, and she will never leave her again. Mars started to sway from side to side, when suddenly he started to fall. But Clarice caught him and he thanked her. Misha said that they helped her. According to the main character, they told about what happened, and they decided to invite them to the place where Sasha was staying now. She brought food and asked if they were hungry, and asked them to eat their fill, after which they began to eat. Sasha said that this city of Ganal has literally become a hotbed of crime. That is why Count Beetle told them to avoid this place. Sasha looked at the scroll and said that it was too dangerous for children here, after which she handed them a bag of money. This is her gratitude to them for everything they did. She understands that this is not enough, but she spent a lot of money looking for Misha. She is truly grateful from the bottom of her heart that they saved her and asked to let her thank them properly. MC smiled and noted that this is enough, and they are also very glad that they met her. They said goodbye and said they would miss her. Misha waved and said goodbye to them happily in return. They watched them go and thanked them for everything. Meanwhile, the carriage entered the kingdom. Mars asked the seller if they had 2 free rooms. Clarice tugged at his sleeve and asked if they could share a room today. The beds were separate anyway. The protagonist was surprised, and after a while, they were sitting on separate beds. He smiled and asked her to go to the bathroom first. She asked sheepishly that she was taking quite a long time to take a bath. Maybe he should go first? Mars pointed out that he was a gentleman after all, so ladies first. Clarice said that people who call themselves gentlemen are suspicious, right? Meanwhile, Clarice sat in the bathroom and thought that she and the protagonist would end up in the same room. Nothing bad would happen since they had separate beds. She would be scared if she was kidnapped again, and together it is safer than alone, and also more economical. Clarice sat in the bath and thought that she wants to get closer to him a little more. Meanwhile, MC was lying on the bed and looking at the crystal, when suddenly it began to glow. He was surprised and thought, The crystal is shining, which means there's a family somewhere nearby. Mars came to the bathroom door and said that he would go away for a while. It looks like his family is somewhere nearby. Clarice was surprised and asked him to wait, but he had already run out of the house and ran ahead. He happily thought, they came to take him away. Who is it? Suddenly, Zeke called out to him and they looked at him in surprise, after which he threw himself into their arms. After some time, Clarice introduced herself to Zeke, and he said that he read about her in a letter. He is the father of the main character. Ike said that he was pleased to meet her. The waiter brought dishes, and Zeke invited them to chat over food, after which they began to eat. While eating, they talked about the battle with the hell snake in the demon forest, about Misha and Sasha, and about the auction. Zeke looked at them in surprise and said, so that's how it was. He's a good boy, so he's proud of him. After a while, they got into the cart, and Zeke asked if they took everything. Everyone agreed, and the cart moved off. After a while, they were approaching the Dark Kingdom, and Clarice shot a bow and hit the goblin in the forehead. She patted the horse, and they continued their way home. Arriving back, Mars greeted Clarice at his home, and Maria looked at him in surprise. She ran up to him and hugged him tightly. He said that he was home and apologized for making her worry. Lena hugged him and smiled happily. Finally, he was home. The protagonist agreed. He was home, and she had grown so much. Maria asked, is she Clarice? She is Maria, Mars's mother. She bowed and said it was nice to meet her. Maria bowed back and remarked on her excellent manners. After a while, they gathered at the table and greeted them again. They thanked them in unison. Zeke asked Maria to help Clarice get used to it, and she thanked her. Maria said that it might be a bit strange for her at first, but she would get used to it. Lena came up from behind and said that she was glad to meet her. Clarice happily said that she was glad too. Lena really liked Clarice. Brother Ike was absorbed in his studies, and he helped his father with his work. A month later, Count Carmel asked him to clear the Almeria Labyrinth of monsters. Zeke instructed them to explore the labyrinth, and they agreed. Meanwhile in Almeria, the guys were standing in line when suddenly a guy called out to them and said that even though he was a boy, he had good equipment. Did he steal it? The protagonist replied that they got the equipment from the chests in the labyrinth. The guy asked him to prove his ability, and then they stood around the crowd with swords in their hands. The guy said if he was not strong enough, he would take his equipment. Suddenly, the protagonist swung his sword, and the guy fell to the ground. Ralph came out of the crowd and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. How is Count Bryant? I greeted him. His father asked them to clear the monsters in the labyrinth, and this is a document from his father. The crowd whispered, is this a child from the Bryant family? No wonder he is so strong. It is true. Ralph thanked them for helping him clear the monsters, and after a while, they stood near the huge door of the building. Birds flew right at them, and Mars asked them not to let down their guard. Ike took a fighting stance and said that these were D-rank silver birds. They deftly dealt with it, and then, out of breath, looked at the pile. MC asked how to take these magic stones. Ike replied that it was impossible to take them all. They will go back home and talk to their father. After a while, Zeke said that the problem is that there are too many magic stones, so they can't collect them all, and now they will go buy a slave. Ike, Mars, and Clarice looked at him in confusion. After a while, they came to buy a slave. The seller asked if they were looking for someone with high agility and strength as a porter. In that case, what about a beastman slave? Zeke noted that he would not mind, and the seller asked them to follow him. They walked along a large corridor, looking around and noticing the slaves' gazes. Zeke said that they were quite wary. The seller awkwardly noted that this was because the beastmen did not recognize anyone as their master. The rooms are of different sizes, and in this room is one of the 12 dukes of the former Lister alliance. Duke Sarens, a representative of the Beastmen. But he was exiled in a coup d'etat. Earl Carmel sold him at an exorbitant price, and he bought him. But Sarens said that he will not obey someone weaker than him. The protagonist used the heavenly eye when suddenly Burns noticed him and knocked down the door with his hand. MC flew to the side and used clairvoyance, but his aura did not allow it. He thought that he could not dodge and used a barrier. Burns hit the barrier and it split in half. He thought if he was hit now, Clarice would be in trouble. Suddenly, Mars stopped his attack with his hands, and everyone looked at them in surprise. Burns stopped and the protagonist looked at his hands. Is this lightning magic? Why did he attack him so suddenly? Burns replied that he was trying to see his skills, so he decided to scare him. He noticed that he was trying to study him. Mars bowed and said that he was very sorry. His name is Mars. If he does not mind, can he say his name? He replied that his name is Burns. The protagonist asked if he minded if he used the appraisal again. He replied that he didn't care, after which the protagonist used the skill and looked at its stats in surprise. Burns asked if he was done. MC said that they were looking for a slave, but he said that he wouldn't obey someone weaker than him and that he wouldn't do without it. But maybe he interested someone else. The other slaves happily shouted that he was no slouch. I wish he could be her master too. The protagonist smiled and asked if he could look at them all then. After a while, Zeke asked if they were okay. They happily agreed. Mac, Guy, and Oru introduced themselves. They were 3 Black Wolf brothers. Ray and Misa said that they were pleased to meet them. Zeke asked them to follow them. He had rented the whole house. They went inside and he said that first they would eat. A few seconds later, the table was groaning with food. Ray asked if they minded that they were eating at the same table with them. Guy asked in surprise, "Is that not allowed?" Ray said with displeasure that they needed to learn to communicate more respectfully. Zach said that today was nothing to worry about and that Ike would decide from tomorrow. Now, they would discuss their duties as slaves. They should not harm them, and in 3 years they would move to Arguzia. And after the move, he wanted to take the 3 of them into the dungeon, and Ray and Misa as servants in the house. According to Mars, as they finished dinner, they decided where everyone would sleep. Zik said that they would start preparing tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the morning, Guy, Oru, and Mac said that they had become E-rank adventurers. Guy asked what they should do next. Ike said that he would decide further when he saw their abilities. They entered the labyrinth and said that first they must defeat the monsters. They quickly rushed to attack and deftly began to deal with it. Guy exclaimed joyfully, "One missed blow is not a sentence." Make swung his leg and quickly hit the monster, and Oru tried to defeat the monster with his hands. After the fight, they stood next to each other and Guy said that they defeated everyone.